Up next, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Riane Eisler and Dr. Nejem Raheem to share about the Social Wealth Index. As many of you know, and for those of you who are brand new to this work and have not yet had the opportunity to be around Riane's work or hear her speak, Riane has been at this work for about 45 years if we include the 10 years of research that she did on The Chalice and the Blade, which was her first big research book. Since then, she's published 13 books. The most recent is Nurturing Our Humanity, which she published with Doug Fry out of Oxford University Press, which examines how neuroscience affects our systems and how it really builds on the entirety of her body of work and this concept of domination and partnership systems. And Riane co-founded with her husband the Center for Partnership Studies in 1987. Since then, they have built a vibrant community of leaders who have been trained in partnership systems work. And it's such a blessing to get to be here with you today, Riane. In addition, Riane will be in conversation with Dr. Nejem Raheem, who for the last 15 years has been an environmental economist. He is an associate professor at Emerson College, and he is joining with CPS to help with the development of the Social Wealth Index. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Riane and Nejem. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Rosie and I want to thank all of you for being part of this launch of partnerism, which, as Rosie said, I originally coined in the Real Wealth of Nations to describe a caring economic system, a system that rewards the essential human work of caring for people starting in childhood and caring for our planet. But we felt that partnerism is a good word for a movement. And so this is launching the partnerism movement, which, as Rosie said, is really the partnership movement, but with a hopefully more accessible name. Now, about the Social Wealth Index, I should tell you what it is in case you don't know what it is. A few years ago, with funding from the Kellogg Foundation, we developed really an alternative to GDP called the Social Wealth Economic Indicators. And what's so very different about these is, number one, that they are appropriate for our post-industrial era, in that they focus on investing in our human infrastructure as well as our natural infrastructure, which, in case you haven't noticed, conventional economics treat as, quote, externalities, right? I hate that word because the externalities actually describe some of the most important things about our lives and our children's future. So these indicators show the economic value, especially in our post-industrial era, when we keep hearing from economists even that the most important capital is what they like to call human capital. Well, whether that high-quality human capital is or is not developed actually largely hinges on, we know from neuroscience now, on the kind of care and education children receive early on. So fast forward, the social wealth economic indicators are 24 indicators. That's a lot. So the Social Wealth Index project is to condense them and also to update them. And that's what we're now engaged in. We've completed the first phase, and now we're looking for a co-principal investigator to work with Nejem, whom you're going to hear from in a moment, to really develop this index. And I really want to invite all of you to start talking about this, because we are not measuring economic health with GDP. God, goodness knows what we're measuring. But GDP includes activities that actually kill us, like making cigarettes, selling cigarettes, and the resulting medical and funeral costs. They're all great for GDP. They're all there in GDP. Can you believe that? But GDP fails to include the economic value of the life-sustaining work of caring for people and caring for nature, and especially caring for children. So Nejem, it's yours.
Thanks, Riane. And hi, everybody. It's great to see so many people showing up for this. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to work with CPS on this Social Wealth Index for the past couple of months. It's also kind of bringing together a lot of work that I've been doing over the past sort of decade and a half, mostly in environmental areas, but also in the fields of sort of indigenous communities and underrepresented communities around the US. And I wanted to say before reiterating a few of the things that Riane was pointing out, that in terms of making partnerism mainstream, I don't know if folks who were watching the Democratic National Convention last night, but there was an explicit call to value caring work. I mean, it was just really clearly stated. So it's the kind of thing that, you know, in Riane's writing, you see a lot of sort of moving us beyond these sort of shallow dichotomies of Marxism versus capitalism into a more comprehensive, deeper, and broader way of understanding everything that we bring together as a species. And it's so great to see that showing up on basically primetime television. It's always been such an abstract or esoteric thing for so many people, but now it's really just coming forward, you know? So again, to sort of reiterate what Riane is saying, we are looking for a co-PI, a co-principal investigator, someone to work with me on developing this index. And we're in this phase now where we're sketching out what the structure of it looks like, right? So what exactly we're going to look at in terms of data that we need to gather, some of which exists, some of which are a little trickier to find, on caring for the planet and caring for people, essentially, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that, but we don't have a lot of time. So we would also really love any of your help. I saw somebody send out my LinkedIn information down below. If you want to get in touch with me that way or via some of the folks who are organizing this. If you have any thoughts on folks we can reach out to, we have written an RFP, a request for proposals, and we've been distributing that really widely and contacting folks. So we're in the process now of looking for someone to work with me on doing this. But yeah, I think this is really just, it's incredibly timely, arguably overdue, but incredibly timely with all of the forces that are coming together on the planet right now. And I'm just super excited to be part of this. So thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
Nejem.
you. And I want to reiterate, if you can think of people that you think would be qualified to be co-principal investigator with Nejem, please let us know. And just talk about the social wealth index, and that we have to take into account what we know from neuroscience as well as what we know from climate change, for goodness sakes. I mean, let's measure reality rather than whatever GDP is measuring. So thank you, and I turn it back to Rosie.